Good morning, everybody. My name is Brendan Rady. I'm from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. On behalf of ICE, I would like to thank the City of Boston, the Mayor of Boston, Boston Public Library, and our state, federal, and international law enforcement partners for bringing us all together today. Without further ado, I would like to introduce and call up our special agent in charge here in Boston, Mr. Matt Petrie.
Thank you, Brendan. Good afternoon. As introduced, my name is Matthew Etrie. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for ICE's Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, here in Boston. I want to thank all of you for being here today. E benvenuti ai nostri colleghi dall'Italia, General Fabrizio Paruli e Consul General Nicola Di Santis. È veramente un piacere di essere qui con voi. Grazie per venire. I want to also welcome our honored guest, Mayor Walsh from the City of Boston, the Acting U.S. Attorney, William Weinreb, and Beth Prindle from the Boston Public Library, and all of our law enforcement partners and colleagues from Italy who've made the journey, and our colleagues here in New England. Thank you all. Many of you are probably wondering, why here? Why in the Boston Public Library? Well, it's only apropos that we have this ceremony here in the library because the library, particularly Beth Prindle and her team, played an integral role in identifying some of the beautiful artifacts that you see here today, and has brought it to the attention of law enforcement to enable us to do an investigation and have this repatriation ceremony. This is such a cultural center for the City of Boston, and is that way because of the direction of Mayor Walsh, the Boston Public Library, and Beth Prindle. So I want to thank both of you for opening the doors of this gorgeous facility for us today. One of the crimes that HSI investigates is the trafficking of another country's stolen national treasures. So on behalf of HSI, we're honored to return this collection of priceless cultural artifacts to the government of Italy. Today's repatriation of a late 14th century Marigola from the Scuola di Santa Maria Valverde della Misericordia in Venice, a frontispiece of an early 15th century Marigola from the Scuola Grande di San Giovanni Evangelistas, also in Venice, and a copy of the Bernardino Telesio's book, Varie de Naturibus Rebus Libelli, dated 1590, and nearly 200 Roman bronze coins is a direct result of the collaboration, the fine work of HSI in Boston, in Rhode Island, as well as the collaboration with Customs and Border Protection, who is represented here today, and in collaboration with our Italian partners, of course, the Italian Carabinieri. In March 2014, an investigation began with the seizure of 198 Roman coins. The coins were interdicted by our partners at U.S. Customs and Border Protection in Ohio. They were being shipped from the United Arab Emirates with the destination of Providence, Rhode Island. The evaluation and investigation of these coins led us to believe they were misappropriated and shipped in violation of U.S. law with respect to cultural properties. That enabled us to seize these items and ultimately forfeit them and present them here today for repatriation. The investigation of the Marigola and the frontispiece started in 2015 with a request from our HSI attaché in Rome, Italy, along with the Boston Public Library, regarding two pieces in the library's possession, discovered to be part of a theft that occurred at the National Archive of the State of Venice in the early 1940s, unbeknownst to the BPL at the time it acquired them. In June of 2016, HSI identified a book in the Boston Public Library collection that was originally part of a private collection of a 14th century archbishop in Sicily. We know it was in the Archbishop's collection because it bears his personal signature on the front pages, something he did to all of his personal books. Toward the end of his life, the Archbishop donated his entire collection to be preserved in a library bearing his name, the Library of Ludovico Il de Torres. Cardinal Torres, at the time library, was then protected by a papal bull, an official decree issued at that time by Pope Clement VIII. In 1593 that forbid the removal of the item from the library with the consequence of excommunication. This papal bull is actually in effect today. It's believed this book was stolen from the library's collection sometime after 1824, at that time of the last time it was inventoried. The Boston Public Library legitimately purchased this book from a dealer in California in 1980. Once the BPL was alerted that this book was likely the cultural property of Italy, they immediately took steps to work with HSI and the agencies that you see here today to repatriate these items with the Italian government. So the theft of cultural antiquities, it robs the nations of their rightful history. It's the people's, their pride and identity, and fundamental historical contributions their ancestors made to today's modern world. HSI is honored to have worked with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the United States Attorney's Office, the Italian Carabinieri, the Boston Public Library, to make it all possible to return these rare artifacts so clearly that belong to the Italian people. And finally, I'd like to thank the professional experts who were brought in to verify the items themselves. Their combined expertise was an integral part of why we're here today. They are Dr. Lisa Fagan Davis of the Medieval Academy of America here in Cambridge, Dr. Carmen Arnold Biucchi, Damerete Curator of Ancient Coins from Harvard Art Museum, and Dr. Catherine Press, Senior Associate Registrar for Collections, Harvard Art Museums. Thank all of you and thank all of the law enforcement entities that are here for the collaboration on this case. It would not have been possible without the tireless efforts that you put forward. When I was assigned in Rome, Italy, I experienced my first cultural property investigation. It was working right here with the Carabinieri and the General's unit. At that time, the General was part of that unit, not as the General, though. And I found it so interesting that you're able to conduct a criminal investigation at that time, but also, while you're doing your investigation, you're getting a parallel history lesson. And it was really incredible to be part of that. It was a gold fiale that we had discovered and seized and were able to repatriate with the Italians. And speaking with the General this morning, he mentioned to me that that very piece has been on display at the Uffizi in Florence, Italy, for the past few months. So for me, it's very special to be here again, because this is just my second time now being associated with this type of case. So for me, it's a great day, it's a great event, and I thank all of you that made this possible. So please join me in welcoming General Fabrizio Perulli.
Thank you. Dear distinguished colleagues and members of all parties that made this very important event possible. First of all, please let me say that I'm deeply honored to be here today at this prestigious venue representing my country and the Carabinieri Tutela Patrimonio Culturale. But let me say thanks to all the authorities that are present here today, and to all the colleagues, and especially to Matthew, that with this talk today, we give back to the memories of '90, when we worked together in the Rome, when I was captain at the time, not general, not an old general, but the young captain, so it was a good period of memories, especially for that timing. And we worked together in some repatriation and some very important moment of our investigation life in that period. And over the year, the investigative cooperation between the Carabinieri for the protection of cultural heritage and U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement and Homeland Security investigation has continued to consolidate, leading to extraordinary results in recovering important works of art illicitly removed from Italy. Only last December, a similar event was held in Washington, D.C., in the Italian Embassy, when ICE and U.S. Customs and Border Protection returned two masterpieces to the government of Italy. With today's repatriation ceremony, we are once again witnessing the long and consistent cooperation between the Carabinieri TPC and ICE in the field of promotion and protection of cultural heritage. Well, I don't want to enter more in detail about the background information on the artifacts that we are presenting here today, because also already Matthew spoke about the investigation activity. But the book on the 1590 book of De Vari de Naturalibus Rebus Libelli, authored by Bernardino Telesio. The investigation started on 2015, when the book had been reported stolen from Ludovico II de Torres of the Archbishop Seminary Library collection in Monreale, Sicily. The book bears the personal signature of Cardinal Ludovico II de Torres, that was the Monreale Archbishop from 1588 until his death in 1609. The Monreale Library director reported that the book had been removed under unknown circumstances, and that the book was now part of the Boston Public Library collection, thus providing significant evidence to establish that the copy of the Boston Public Library was in fact the book missing from the library in Monreale. So HSI Boston investigation revealed that the Tolesio book had been legitimately purchased in 1980 by the Boston Public Library, and upon the discovery of the legal provenance, the Boston Public Library willingly relinquished to the HSI Boston for the final restitution to the government of Italy. The Marigola manuscript and the illuminated leaves. In 1949, several manuscripts belonging to the State Archives of Venice were reported stolen. In 1950, the thieves were identified and prosecuted by the Italian judicial authorities. However, the stolen manuscript and leaves were never recovered. In 2030, various leaves of the Marigola manuscript were traced back to the Boston Public Library. For this reason, the Judicial Authority of Venice submitted a mutual legal assistance treaty request to U.S. authorities for their recovery and restitution. On April 2006, the 14th century Marigola and Scuola Grande di Santa Maria di Valverde della Misericordia and the 15th century illuminated page belonging to the Marigola Scuola Grande di San Giovanni Evangelista were seized by HSA Boston. The Boston Public Library executed the book abandonment, relinquishing ownership rights. And therefore, on behalf of the Republic of Italy, for the return of these three masterpieces, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the ICU Attaché Rome, Mr. Armando Astorga, and his staff, that was one of the investigators of this case. HSI Special Agent in Charge Boston, Matthew Eitri, Department of Justice Attaché Rome, the U.S. Attorney Office Boston, represented here by Mr. William Wainwright. Customs and Border Protection, represented here today by Assistant Director of Border Security, Mike Manning. And the Honorable Mayor of Boston, Mr. Marty Walsh. And of course, the Boston Public Library, represented here today by Ms. Beth Prindle, Head of Special Collection, to whom I express my special thanks for their full collaboration. Thank you very much. But let me say something about my colleague Armando Astorga. I really express my greatest appreciation for the recovery of these ancient coins also, because he was in charge of the investigation of the looted and smuggled Roman coins. I ask to extend my gratitude to all U.S. entities that made this happen. Let me express my gratitude also to my consular, Italian General Consular Niccolo De Santi, that represent here the Italian government, for this participation to this sending off ceremony. I'm convinced that the spirit of this event testifies the great partnership we have consolidated over the years, and the future will allow us to recover other important works of art. I would like to highlight that public and private institutions are experiencing a change of perception in terms of cultural heritage. This transition has shifted from the concept of the need to return stolen cultural property to its rightful owner, based merely on law, to a broadly shared culture of restitution. On behalf of the Carabinieri Corps in Italy, thank you for your great work and the collaboration provided to the Carabinieri Command for the Protection of Cultural Heritage. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, General. And of course, we'd like to welcome Mayor Walsh to the podium, who's made this possible through the Boston Public Library, for opening the doors to this facility today in such great collaboration. So please, Mayor Walsh.
Thank you, Special Agent Eitri. In general, thank you. I don't know if anyone that can come to this microphone for the rest of the day can be as interesting as the two of you have been today. But I want to thank you for this opportunity. I also want to welcome U.S. Attorney Weinreb, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, to come here. Also, the Consul General of Italy, my good friend, Consul General DeSantis, is here, so I want to thank you as well. I want to thank Beth as well, from the head of the Special Collections, who will be up here in a few minutes talking. You know, today is an exciting day. We're thrilled to have the 3 items that we've had in our collections being returned to the Italian government and for restoration of these artifacts to the original place of origin. It's important for us to do that. Over the last couple of years here in Boston, we've had a lot of conversations around our special collections. But I want to thank, before I get into that, I want to thank the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Boston Public Library, all of you for the great work that you've done here, because this is an important piece. As was said a minute ago by the General, he was talking about arts and culture, and in Boston, we have done an awful lot of work to elevate the arts in our city. And we've elevated in the sense of creating an arts and culture cabinet position post with the city of Boston to tell its importance of what's happening. Art tells a story of a nation. Art tells a story of a people. And to be here today with all of the different agencies that worked very closely together, I want to thank them for it. I was also remiss, I want to introduce State Representative Byron Rushing, who is also a member of the board here at the Boston Public Library. I want to thank Representative Rushing for being with us today. The Boston Public Library is committed to preserving our cultural history. We're very proud of our special collections, and it's through the decades of acquisitions that we have a long and passionate history. As a result of this, years and years of treating our special historic letters with the utmost care. We're making some investments in our budget this year. We're making an investment of $15.7 million to a project to be able to preserve our library's most valuable assets and historical special collections and manuscripts. It's also going to allow us the opportunity for barcoding of over 250,000 rare books and 1 million manuscripts for the first time ever. I'm afraid when we start to do this, what we'll find that's not ours and other governments, we will have the U.S. Attorney's Office and the immigration in here again looking for more things, but hopefully everything we have is ours now. But it is exciting for the opportunity to truly treat these manuscripts and the different artifacts that we have in the city of Boston the way they should be. We're also making significant environmental improvements to protect these materials as well as we move forward. And we're actually changing also the area for people to be able to come in and review these books, the reading room they call it. So we're going to be working with this inventory and working to create a very special place in our library. Again, I can't speak justice to the special agent when he spoke here or the general, but I want to thank again the Department of Homeland Security, the Italian government, the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Boston for being a critical partner in this effort. I also want to thank the wonderful staff here at the library. One thing you will notice when you take these beautiful works home with you, they're in great shape. They're in great shape because of the care that they received here at this library with the great staff that we have here at the Boston Public Library. So I want to thank you as well. On behalf of the city of Boston, I want to hope all the visitors, tourists, and people coming here will enjoy these special historic items. And now I have the great honor of introducing Boston Office U.S. Attorney Weinreb to come up here and say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Walsh. I too was going to deliver my remarks in fluent Italian, but I didn't want to show up Special Agent in Charge Eitri, so I think I'll just stick to English. It is an honor to be here with the Special Agent in Charge from HSI, with the General, the Mayor, Beth Prindle from the library, and it's a pleasure to join all of you to celebrate the return of these cultural artifacts to the people of Italy. One of the many roles of the U.S. Attorney's Office is to work collaboratively with other countries on matters of international law. We have several treaties with the government of Italy, and they are a tribute to the diplomacy between our two countries. Some of those treaties deal with the return of fugitives, with the exchange of evidence in criminal cases, but they also deal with the return of certain artifacts to foreign governments, such as Italy. And that's what brings us here today. Over the course of many months, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Ken Shine and Victor Wild have coordinated with Homeland Security to arrange the return of these historic pieces. Well, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the United States has provided these precious items with a safe haven over the years. They're an important part of Italian history, and they rightly belong in their country of origin with the Italian people. It's truly been an honor for us to be a part of the process of securing their safe return. As Special Agent in Charge Itri detailed, this is no small feat, often because the trafficking of cultural property is a lucrative business. There are people out there who value profit over history, and they're willing to steal the cultural heritage of other nations in order to make a buck by selling those items over here in the United States. As prosecutors, we will continue to do our part to ensure that these national treasures are returned to their rightful owners. I'd like to thank the Boston Public Library for their cooperation in recent months to bring this repatriation to fruition, as well as the Italian government for their patience. This has been a long road, but we're happy that we finally come to the end of it and that these items are going to go back to the people who rightfully own them. I now want to introduce Beth Prindle, the head of the special collections here at the Boston Public Library, who has taken exceptional care of these items over the years that they've been here, and will now, sadly, but proudly return them to the Italian people.
Thank you, Attorney Weinreb. This is a tough act to follow. I'm Beth Prindle, Head of Special Collections for the Boston Public Library, and I'm here on behalf of David Leonard, President of the Library, who is sorry not to be here today. And it's a particular honor to host the General, who's traveled such a great distance to join us and oversee the return of these rare and important items to Italy. So today, Boston Public Library formally returns 2 medieval manuscripts to the State Archives in Venice. The first, the Marigola della Scuola di Santa Maria della Misericordia, a medieval manuscript which dates from 1392, and an illuminated leaf from the manuscript Marigola della Scuola Grande di San Giovanni Evangelista, which dates from roughly 1420. In addition, the library will be returning a printed collection of works by Bernardino Telesio, published in 1590, to the Library of Ludovico de Torres in Sicily. These 3 items were acquired by the Boston Public Library between 1950 and 1980. All were purchased in good faith from respected rare books dealers for our rare books and manuscripts collection, which, as Mayor Walsh mentioned, totals nearly 250,000 items in our rare books department and 1 million manuscripts in that collection as well. The BPL is committed to the integrity of our collections, as it is for all museums, libraries, and historical institutions that collect materials that are hundreds, if not thousands of years old. Establishing the provenance of the items we hold is an imperative and a challenge. Recently, questions about the provenance of the Marigolas came to light thanks to an independent researcher and a project funded by the Boston Public Library to analyze and describe the nearly 250 medieval manuscripts in our collection. Through these extensive efforts, it was determined that the 2 Marigola manuscripts in the BPL's collection had been missing from the State Archives in Venice since the late 1940s. Dr. Lisa Fagan Davis, Executive Director of the Medieval Academy of America, was responsible for much of this research, and she is with us today. Lisa, if you could raise your hand. We'd like to thank Dr. Davis for her scholarship and her important contributions. The third item, a printed volume by Bernardino Telesio, bears the signature of Cardinal de Torres, whose personal collection, as you heard, has been held by a library bearing his name in Sicily since the 1600s. Discussions with that library's curators and others indicated that the book was inappropriately removed from their collection at an unknown date. In all cases, the library has been proud to partner with our city, federal, and Italian authorities to investigate these matters seriously, and we jointly reached the conclusion that these materials should be repatriated to their respective Italian institutions. The BPL has treated these items with careful custodianship since they came to us decades ago, and now we return them to our Italian colleagues to continue for their care. I would like to acknowledge State Representative Byron Rushing, a trustee and a member of the BPL Special Collections Committee, which assisted with repatriation investigation and decision as well. And I'd like to offer special thanks for all of our colleagues at the City, Homeland Security, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for their assistance with this process and their continued support of the library and their dedication to cultural heritage. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that, but at this point I'd like to invite Zach Eitri and General Perulli to sign the ceremonial transfer of custody documents.